Breaking news, Javi Báez, Detroit Tigers shortstop, much maligned Detroit Tigers shortstop, was announced about an hour before we jumped on here to be going on the injured list, out for the season with right hip surgery. And I guess there is hope out there that the right hip was his problem all along, causing his horrific 3 seasons in Detroit of basically being the worst hitter in baseball. Maybe it's been his hip all along. Somehow I doubt it. Um, it's interesting timing. He did go on the IL late last week actually, and then the announcement just came out tonight that he's having season-ending surgery. So that coincided with the call up of Trey Sweeney, who you might remember was the key part of the Jack Flaherty deal from the Dodgers at this past trading deadline. So the Tigers are making some interesting moves with their roster. They're basically, you could say, the future is now. They have called up all the prospects you've heard about coming up through the Tiger system. They've got all the kids playing right now, and it's really fucking fun for a now a 1 game below 500, hopefully a 500 team after tonight's game with the White Sox, uh, to see how the future could play out. It's got to be the youngest roster in Major League Baseball right now. Um, I guess I can go through the around the whole diamond. I mean, you start with Dylan Dingler, the catching prospect that called up a couple weeks ago. Not to be confused with Dirk Diggler. So we've got him behind the plate. At first base, Spencer Torkelson is back up and raking. He had a 4-hit game last weekend. He's looking like his former self and nothing like he did at the beginning of this season, which is extremely encouraging. Reigning AL Rookie of the Month, Colt Keith, is still raking. He looks legit. We talked about a little bit last episode how he's legitimizing that contract extension that he received from the Tigers and Scott Harris before he ever set foot on a major league field. He looks like a legit hitter and continues to do so. He might be even a 2-time Rookie of the Month winner after this month concludes. We'll see. But the aforementioned Trey Sweeney came up, and Jace Young called up at the same time. That is the third base prospect that we've been hearing about for quite some time. It's really the reason why the Tigers did not go after big name third base free agents in this offseason, including your Giants' Matt Chapman, who's actually having a tremendous year. So
He sure is.
Yeah, I was definitely wrong about that one. I particularly looked at the last 100 games of Matt Chapman's 2023 season, where he was in horrific decline. And I thought that was just sort of a harbinger of how his career was kind of falling off a cliff, but that is clearly not the case. It would have been a pretty solid move for the Tigers if they had signed him. It's turned out to be a pretty solid move for your Giants. Although the Giants and Tigers have the exact same record. Or no, Tigers are a half game behind right now. So it's interesting how we've taken different paths to get the exact same place. Riley Green has come off the injured list and is back in the outfield. Kerry Carpenter has done the same and is raking. And of course, Parker Meadows is manning center field. And he looked completely overmatched when he first came up in the beginning of the season. Came back and got injured immediately, and then now he's back and he looks like a potential MVP candidate if he could put together more than 3 weeks. If he can stay healthy, he's a game changer in defense and looking offensively as well. So those are like all the exciting players I wanted to see at the beginning of the season before we even got started. I was hoping to see those guys. The whole strategy behind not going after a lot of free agents is because Scott Harris did not want to block these prospects. I wanted to get a feel for what he had. Of course, many of these are inherited from the previous regime, Al Avila. So these are. I think that was part of it, where Scott Harris literally just wanted to see how these players could progress throughout the minor leagues and into the majors, just to know what he's got and what he needs to do going forward. This is basically going to be a 6-week tryout for everybody to see what the 2025 roster will look like. and what areas will need to be supplemented with free agents. Right now, I mean, the young kids, they're kids. You know, they're not hitting 300 or anything like that, except for Colt Keith. But they're not. They don't. No one looks overmatched, which is really encouraging. As we've seen it plenty of times where somebody gets called up and they just don't look like they belong. And I haven't seen that with anybody. Uh, Trey Sweeney, clearly the heir apparent to Javi Baez. He's solid defensively. I and you know he's only hitting 211, 220, something like that. But that's not too discouraging. I'm not worried about that at this moment. Um, as his defense looks solid enough, if he can provide anything offensively, it's more than what Javi Baez has been providing for the better part of 3 years. So I was going to talk about this before the breaking news came out about Javi Baez's injury, but I mean, with the call up of Trey Sweeney and the unceremonious IL stint for Javi Baez, did we potentially see the last of Javi Baez in a Tigers uniform?
I mean,
I
220, 221? Javi's
yeah,
batting 184. I mean,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
a significant fucking improvement. That's 40
It's a big
points.
improvement. Yeah. Uh, do you know the part of the interesting things we were talking about coming into this is how the schedule makers helped us out by having my Tigers play my Cubs last week, and of course, it was the return of Javi Baez to Wrigley Field for the first time since he has been outside of a Cubs uniform.
Oh no, second time. He came back as a Met.
Did
Plus
he?
the first
Okay,
time as a Tiger.
that
Yeah.
that makes sense. So yeah, it's been 3 years. So
Yeah, it's been a while.
but he was greeted with a standing ovation. The Cubs did a really classy video tribute to him. Of course, I mean it just emphasizes how you know the dichotomy of Javi Baez, the how he's beloved and was a just a transcendent player in Chicago, and has been the complete opposite in Detroit. And it's just so frustrating. As he of course got started out with a standing ovation and ended the game with a golden sombrero.
That's
Oh for
right. I saw
oh for
that.
4 with 4 strikeouts. I mean that just it says it all. That's just what it is as a Tigers player. And this news, subs uh, I think it was the next game Trey Sweeney played. I'm not sure if Javi Baez came back even for game 3 of that series or if he went on the IL. I gotta miss looking that up, but it's quite possible that was the last we're going to see of him. And it's kind of curious timing in that the Tigers were ready to call up Sweeney and ready to demote Javi Baez. You were going to talk about what his role would be going forward if he was not on the IL or having season-ending surgery. And I was considering, maybe he is the backup shortstop and a defensive shortstop replacement or something. It's kind of a bitter pill to swallow for someone making $25 million a year. Uh, but if that's the best way he could have contributed to the roster, that's what they kind of have to do. Well, that's been removed. He's out for the season now. And I'm wondering if he saw the writing on the wall and just decided, I need to have the surgery. I was going to do it in the off season, but I might as well just do it now, see what happens. I don't know. It's just curious, but so now it's led to speculation that the Tigers might actually buy him out of the final 3 years of his deal. He still has $73 million left to be paid, and I don't know that the Tigers are well served by just eating that money and tell him to go. I kind of like the idea. Maybe and maybe things are radically different after he has the surgery. I don't know how dangerous or what the recovery rate is or what the recovery possibilities are. Typically, surgeries guys come back from, but you never know. Um, I don't know. It just kind of feels like this might be the end for Javi Baez, potentially for his career or at least his Tigers career. But just too ironic that it might end in Wrigley Field with a golden sombrero and a Tigers uniform.
I mean, you can't take away what he did while he was on the Cubs, and he was still a defensive highlight film at times for the Tigers, but it was
Not
inconsistent
the
as
same
it.
way it was. Yeah, the
Yeah,
consistency wasn't quite there. So
yeah. So I mean, you got to wonder, Tigers being used to situations somewhat like this with Miguel Cabrera, although Miguel Cabrera was a guaranteed Hall of Famer. Um, you wonder if they'll handle it in that way, where he is able to have success through minimal play versus, I mean, you're going to have to pay him one way or the other, right? Maybe it's better to have him there in some capacity in case someone goes down or something, you need him to fill in, and you got a immediate veteran presence there.
that's why
But
I think it just
he's
doesn't
in
make
a
sense just
part-time
to
role.
release him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They're such a young team. It would seem he can teach these guys and teach these guys his fucking swipe tag. Is there any
Yeah.
better? There's no better. There's still no better.
No.
There's some good ones out there, but like his ability to, no matter what height the ball was thrown at, and successfully gets it down, was like it wasn't even human at times.
Well, it's literally because he's ambidextrous. He's using like his dominant hand to catch the ball. And that's not how, I mean, just imagine how different you'd anyone would be in the field if they could use their dominant hand to catch and throw. That's just how
Right.
he is. So it's crazy, but yeah, the highlights. I keep saying it. I feel like people in Detroit just don't understand what El Mago was, and they kind of roll their eyes at that idea because he's been so horrific in Detroit, and it's just sad to me. And it's clear he needed the spotlight. He needed the packed stadiums. He needed the drama. He needed Wrigley. It was a perfect marriage. Just the Cubs, Wrigley Field, and Javi Baez, and it just does not work outside of that. Maybe I don't know if they can work out a settlement, like if they could buy him out for a lesser price or what. That's the only reason I can think of the Tigers agreeing to that. There's no indication that he's a cancer in the clubhouse. He's not a malcontent. He doesn't
Right.
create issues off the field. Um, I don't know why you wouldn't pay, if you're paying $73 million either way, why you wouldn't try to get something out of it. So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe he will just announce his retirement. You never know. He doesn't seem to play with the same joy. He doesn't seem to love baseball the way he did on the north side. So I guess I wouldn't be too surprised if we did see him go.
I mean, I, it's, it is pretty crazy how quickly he like fell off the table, though. It wasn't like it was a slow progression.
No. The moment he got in Detroit, it's just been a cliff. I mean, and it has not improved. I've been waiting for it to improve the whole time. We're 3 years into the experiment, and it's not changed a bit.
Word Hole Media.